Hey MVPs, RicoKnows here. Going to talk to you guys about the UFC Las Vegas 102 fight card, just the main event. You guys know I've already broken down every single one of these fights in another video. It's on Patreon, man. We have over 5,500 members for a reason. Go find out why. Been doing this for a couple years. If I say it's a lock, I'm right 83% of the time. If I say it's a lean, I'm right 68% of the time. That's just who we are and what we do. One thing about the main events, though, I always give them away for free. So if you don't want to pay, that's fine. You don't have to, bro. I don't need your money. We're straight. But if you look at the main events here, we've been getting these right all year long to this point. Now, we've been knocking it out the park. Our parlays, we are 12 out of the last 15. We're 12-3 on parlays for the last two fight cards. Been dominating, just getting things right. 5-0 on locks last week, things of that nature. Been doing really well after having a terrible start to the fight season. But we had the entire 2024 as data, as proof of concept. We don't miss. We get this right. So I'm not going to go ahead and show you everything. We're going to talk about this one specific fight. But if you want to learn more, you can hit the details on this video. Go check it out. Welcome to it. Become an MVP. You can hit join here on YouTube or go to Patreon. Then you'll get to the Discord. Then you'll get to all the picks and all the other stuff. Don't even want to get into that right now. If you're not an MVP, enjoy the free pick. So we're going to talk about Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues. Jared Cannonier, a long-time fighter. He's been around for many, many years, and he's been fighting at a high level, right? He is 40 years old. Everybody always says black don't crack. He doesn't look that old, but he is 40, right? And he's fighting RoboCop. RoboCop, or as I like to call him, Danny Almonte, they tell me he's 32. I don't believe them. I think he lost his birth certificate, and he's much older. At least that's the way he looks in the face, bro. He looks like he's had a hard life. He looks like he deployed 3 times and had a drinking problem. 2 divorces. I'm just saying. He looks like he's been through the ringer, and here he is. So I actually think he's the older fighter. Now, when they fight in the cage, he's going to come across as the younger fighter. So let's start with Gregory Rodrigues and breaking him down. He's 16-5 in his life, has 10 knockouts. He's been knocked out 3 times. I want you guys to know, if he's going to lose, it's because he doesn't really have a chin. He doesn't. He doesn't have a chin. He's not defensively responsible, but he's explosive, okay? I want you to think of an ass kicker. Like if we went into the bar, you want Gregory Rodrigues to have your back. You do, because he's going to throw them things. He's here to fight. Now, I think when they hear his name, RoboCop, everybody just assumes he's invincible. That's not how it works. He just punches really hard, and you're going to hear the leather striking. Now, the last time we saw him twice last year. The last time we saw him, he was fighting CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan. That night, I believe I took Christian Leroy Duncan and I missed. The reality is he utilized wrestling. He understood that that's a very dynamic striker from England. I can't go out there and do that type of thing. I need to wrestle this man. And he wrestled him, and he won the fight that way. He really did. They were probably equivalent in striking, but he was losing some of the striking exchanges. So he just got a takedown, and he had another skill set ready to go, and he found a way to win. Brad Tavares, probably not as good as we thought he was. Brad Tavares looks tough. He's got all the tattoos and muscles. Just not good. Dennis might get beat up on the street somewhere, okay? Bruno Ferreira knocking him out. That's crazy. That's crazy because Bruno Ferreira is not exactly the biggest guy. He does hit with he does pack a punch, but he's not the biggest guy. Beating Chidi, congratulations. Beating Julian Missile Crisis Marquez, that doesn't move me. Losing to Armin Petrosian just scares me. And I bring this up because the quality of fighter, Josh Freem on the regional scene, like, fine, you beat him up, dude. That guy's terrible, okay? When I look at these fighters, the caliber of fighter that he's been making these highlights on are not good fighters. They aren't. They're not marquee names. They're not ranked. They're not where they need to be. The win over Christian Leroy Duncan really showed me something, and that is when we get to this upper echelon, he loses some of his dynamic abilities. It's like all the UFC fighters before their fights. You guys ever seen this? They do like a montage of highlights. And they show you this highlight reel of them knocking dudes out all over the place. 1-punch knockouts, a flying knee, a spinning back fist. Maybe they slam a guy in the guard. Whatever they show you, you just need to understand that was happening to scrubs. And then you see them in a match against an equivalent fighter, and it's not quite as dominant, right? So I bring all this up to just tell you that if you like Gregory Rodrigues in this main event, please understand that I think these odds are way off. Like, I think they're just gone. They really are. They're gone at this point. They're minus 245. There's real no value. There's not value in it. I think if you're going to parlay Gregory Rodrigues money line, you're going to have to do it with one of the Bonfim brothers if you want. They're kind of equivalent. They'll get you to plus 100 money. But I just don't think it's accurate for somebody who hasn't really proven that he can fight and beat the better fighters in the UFC. Don't get me wrong. He's been on a tear. He's on a win streak, 3-win streak. He's still young, theoretically. Supposedly, he's still young. He's got that Albert Pujols birth certificate, right? Remember Albert Pujols? They tried to tell us he was young, and then he signed for like $300 million with the Angels, and he never played like he did on the Cardinals. It's because the Cardinals knew the man was 38, but he was trying to tell you he was 33 and ready to play for 10 more years. So he signed a 10-year contract for $300 million. Dude was good for about 2 weeks. And then it's like, damn, my back hurts. What happened? Nothing, bro. You just slept wrong. You just slept wrong. That's what happens when you're old. Shit goes wrong when you sleep wrong. So anyways, shout out to Gregory Rodrigues. If you believe in him, you believe in him. But I would just tell you that I feel the odds are a little out of place right now, especially when you're fighting somebody of this caliber. Like, reality is he's fighting a complete fighter. Jared Cannonier is a complete fighter. He can do everything, right? Shout out to his nickname, the Killer Gorilla. I won't go there. But I'm going to tell you that Jared Cannonier, lately, he's been looking his age, right? He's 40 years old. He's kind of falling off, and he's on the downslope. You don't get better at 40. Trust me. I used to run, and I used to do things, and now I can still do it. Toby Keith, right? I'm good once, but I'm not as good as I once was, right? So he is 17-8, but when you go look at his losses are to some of the best fighters in the world. Kyle Barajo, fighting nerd, probably going to fight for the belt someday. Amavov, one of the best prospects out there. Israel Adesanya, former champ. Robert Whittaker, shout out to Bobby Knuckles. Dominic Reyes, at this point, was like in the prime of his life. Blachowicz, another former champ. We're talking about Glover Teixeira, another former champ. You got to be a name, and a beastly one at that, if you're going to beat Jared Cannonier. That's the reality of the situation. You got to be an all-time great. And do we think RoboCop belongs in that conversation? You're aware of who RoboCop is. You respect his power. But is it at that point where we got, a dying lion fighting that guy who's coming up in the pride and just looking amazing? Probably. Maybe. It sounds about right. It briefs well. That's what I like to say. It briefs well. But if Kyle Barajo couldn't get Cannonier out of there, and they had to go 5 rounds. Now, he lost every round. Don't get me wrong. He lost every round. But if they had to go 5 rounds, can Gregory Rodrigues fight for 5 rounds? I know Jared Cannonier can. Now, he slowed down a little bit, but I know he can. Gregory Rodrigues has a lot of muscle, a lot of lactic acid waiting to happen. So I'm a little nervous about that. Another thing, Amavov, those dudes were even until he got knocked out, until they weren't. But then you go to Vettori. Did you see the Vettori fight? Absolute destruction of Marvin, I'm boring Vettori. Okay, absolute destruction of Vettori. Vettori's a muscle-bound monster too. Not quite the knockout power, but he's a muscle-bound freak. And I see him here, split decision victory over Sean Strickland. And that was 3 years ago. Now, has he faded in the last 3 years? Maybe. Not as much as anybody else. But remember what I'm saying. All these fighters are better than RoboCop. Every single one of them. The last time he fought a fighter not better than RoboCop is 2018 David Branch. Every single one of these guys has been better than RoboCop. And he's a 50-50 fighter against better fighters. Seriously. So he's a 50-50 fighter against fighters that are far better than RoboCop. And you're giving me plus money on this. You're giving me main event rounds. 5 rounds to figure it out. As long as he goes here. So here's my gambling advice to you. Now, I can't show you guys the chart. That's only for the MVPs. The full chart is filled out with all the different parlays that I believe in and all the different pairings and things and your approach and the props. But we're going to go down this sports book here. I'm using FanDuel just for an example. And I'm going to tell you that I think in this particular fight, this is a live bet waiting to happen. Please hear me out. Don't parlay this. Don't bet it with anything else. Sit down and just wait. Let this fight start. And I want you to pay attention to who has octagon control. Because whoever has octagon control, whoever's on the inside, forcing the other to backpedal or to move away from the jab or away from the power hand. And I talk about angles and I talk about fighting. If you don't know, I'm a fighting instructor. I've been a martial arts combatives instructor for the last 20 years. I'm an MMA guy. And when I talk to my students about how to move away from strikes, you don't realize that over time you'll be exhausted. if you're not leading the dance. If you're on the receiving end, meaning you're on your back foot, you're moving, you're sliding, and they're cutting you off in the octagon, it can be a problem. And I want you guys to remember, this is a small octagon. It's in the apex. It's not as big as the other one. So it's a little smaller, a little more intimate, and we could look at a takedown in Gregory Rodrigues in this different type of fighting style. And if we get there, and we get these clinches against the fence, and we get these takedowns, I don't know if Gregory Rodrigues is going to hold up for 5 rounds. I know Jared Cannonier can. Now, he might get knocked out. So there you go. That's the fear part, right? What I'm telling you is wait to see which one of these guys is backpedaling. Because whoever's backpedaling, you can't do that for 25 minutes. I don't care how much you work out. Eventually, you get tired, and we see this all the time. So pay attention to who's leading the dance, who's initiating the engagements, who's sitting back just looking to counter-strike versus being first. And if Gregory Rodrigues is first and he's making him back up, immediately live bet it. And I don't care what the odds are at that point, right? Let's say they're minus 300 or something. Who gives a shit? A win's a win. Just go win your money. Go win what you want to win. Bet a large pizza on it. I don't care. I never dictate unit size. I never dictate how many units you should bet. Some MVPs are better than others. But I am telling you that if you live bet it, you're probably a little more, you have a more likely chance to come out on top. Because trying to guess how it's going to go early, like from here, all I can tell you is I'm looking at these odds and I'm like, well, Jared Cannonier is an underdog plus 186 against a dude who's never beat anyone of his caliber ever. This is all eye test right here. We know Gregory Rodrigues is a bad dude because he did it at the YMCA, because he did it to some dudes. But we ain't seen him in the league yet. We ain't seen him against other people of equivalent capabilities. I'm telling you, Jared Cannonier is an elite level fighter and only been fighting elite level fighters. Now, I got a lot of respect for Gregory Rodrigues. I do. But his chin has been tested by substandard people. He's not fighting a substandard fighter. He's fighting a main event fighter, somebody who trains for 5 rounds. And you know what's crazy is if you look at Jared Cannonier, that loss to Imavov in June, he gets knocked out. And he's back in the cage in August. Look how active that is. June, August. After a knockout, the damn fight commission should have you medically suspended for like 6 months after a knockout. And they didn't. They let him fight. He's fresh. He's healthy. I think he takes care of his body. He's had a great fight team with MMA Labs. I love everything about that team. Coached by Benson Henderson. They got a number of great fighters in that gym. Metal sharpens metal. They got a ton of guys on this card. I'm excited about the fight card because a lot of these guys are coming from MMA Labs. I already told you, I really, really like Delgado. Shout out to Jose Delgado. But for me, Jared Cannonier is one of these great fighters, dare I say all-time great fighters, and the only people beating him are names, world champions. So unless you think Gregory Rodrigues is going on some epic run for the belt, he'll be the first guy to ever beat him that's not a name. He'll be the first guy that ever beats him that's not in contention for a belt. That'd be shock to me. So I can't go there. And I love Gregory Rodrigues. I think he hits very hard. I think he's very athletic, explosive. But so was Michel Pereira. And so was a number of other people who just don't get it done. Give me Jared Cannonier to get it done, and I believe in it, okay? That being said, I don't know how he's going to win. I don't know if it's points, but I do see that points are at plus 650. I'd imagine TKO is there as well. I don't like anything else. They think Rodrigues is going to win this by knockout. That's news to me, bro. Jared Cannonier, when's the last time he was knocked out? Imavov, Dominic Reyes, which is very similar to Rodrigues and then Sean Jordan. So we're talking about knockouts happening once every 6 years, and you think it's going to happen in the last 6 months. That's just weird. I don't like that prediction. I'm cool. I understand Gregory Rodrigues is a dangerous dude. I do. Will the fight go the distance? They don't think so. It's 5 rounds. They don't think it's going to go the distance. What if they get so tired they can't knock each other out? They're defensively responsible on the ground. They can grapple. Pretty decent. Plus 240, yes. That looks like a better bet worth taking than trying to guess the outcome of the fight. It does. But I still like Jared Cannonier. Just out of the sheer numbers here. Total rounds over 230. What are we talking about? 2.5? Oh boy. I'm on that all day, bro. And I know they think a knockout's happening in the first round. I'm on the over, man. We're getting even money. That will be on the final chart, MVPs. That will be on the final chart. How will the fight end? There's points. There's knockouts. It's 185. I like points, 240. I just think they're both very durable fighters. They got a lot of heart in them, and they're going to be defensively responsible initially. And thinking that Jared Cannonier is going to come in here and get flatlined is crazy to me. I say that because Barajo couldn't do it. Imavov couldn't do it. Flatline, first round? What are we talking about? This guy went 5 rounds with Israel Adesanya. Sean Strickland. Bobby Knuckles. 3 rounds of Bobby Knuckles. Anderson Silva knocked him out. Okay. This is not Anderson Silva, man. This is RoboCop's got a great nickname. He's a cool dude. He's beating people. He's not beating anybody of that caliber. You look at these names, and it's like, when's the next time they're going to fight in the UFC? Never. That's who he's been beating up. A bunch of fringe UFC guys, and it's good. It builds hype. But he's about to fight a real person. I know I'm in the minority. And I'm in the minority because I have to convince myself and you that this man is being undervalued by Vegas. Just by looking at the odds. I can't get down with these odds. I just can't. They feel dumb. I like the over rounds, 2.5, and I like Jared Cannonier to go out there and at 40 years old, be tough, bro. I'm 40. I'm a little over 40, but it is what it is. All right, go do your thing, Jared Cannonier. I believe in you. Be defensively responsible because Rodrigues hits very hard. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Get to the Patreon. You know what to do. Peace.